Hi friends, and welcome back to another video. Today I am bringing you some thriller horror reviews, but I will just put a little caveat in here. I have a new microphone, so please bear with me until I figure out the right settings, how to work with it. I'm new and I'm kind of scared of technology in the sense of like I what am I trying to say? I can handle like new technology if it's things that I've had before, but I've never had a professional microphone and it's something new that I'm trying to get the hang of. So please bear with me while I figure out how to work this. I also have a new setup, which I don't think I've mentioned in my previous videos. I bought a new bookshelf, so I now have three shelves behind me. I'm trying to make my videos more pleasing to watch, which is harder than you think because I tend to move the camera away from my face because I don't like being so up close and personal. It makes me uncomfortable, but I do think that sometimes it feels like I'm kind of floating in the void and I'm not like connecting to the camera as much as I should be. So we have a new microphone, so the sound quality should be better. And I'm getting all up and personal in your business, so please bear with me. And I hope these improvements will help you enjoy my videos better. Total tangent, I just thought that I would say that before I get into the video, just in case there's a few fumbles with this microphone. I want you to know that I am trying to sort it out and work with it, and I'm new, so please be patient. So, what you are here for today is for me to speak about some horror thriller books that I have read recently. The first one that I have here is Clown in a Cornfield by Adam Cersei. Caesar? Caesar? Adam Caesar? We have Clown in a Cornfield. I've actually already read this before, and I never spoke about it on my channel when I read it, I don't think. So this was a reread for me. And I'm currently rereading the sequel right now because the third book is released at the end of August. I have a pre-order in, and I wasn't allowing myself to pre-order anything until I had reread at least the first book. I have done that. So in this, we follow Quinn, whose life is uprooted when her mum passes, and her and her dad move to Kettle Springs. It is Kettle Springs, right? Kettle Springs. I knew it was Kettle Springs. Why did I second guess myself there? So they move to Kettle Springs, and Kettle Springs is kind of, you know, more rural. They're moving from Philly to Kettle Springs, so from a big city to a small town. And this town is kind of stuck in the past. You have these adults that are, very protective of the town and how it was when they were like raised in the town. And then you have the younger, the young adults, the teenagers that are trying to bring the town into a new generation, so to speak. So you essentially follow Quinn as she settles in this town, and there's some, atmosphere going on between the teens and the adults. And there's this clown, Frendo, who is technically the mascot of this town, but it's kind of went into hibernation, I suppose, because Frendo was the mascot of this corn syrup um, company, which was the town's kind of like oil. It was the town's bread and butter. So Frendo was the mascot of that, but when the factory closed down and stopped making the syrup, Frendo just stayed the mascot, but in a quieter sense. This book is one of my favorite horror YA books. This I gave this 4 stars the first time I read it, and I also gave it 4 stars the second time that I read it. This has a little bit of everything in it. It has, good characters that are nice to follow, that are set up really well. It also has this history of this town where you get in, and there's an atmosphere almost immediately when you enter into this town. So straight away you're setting off on a right foot with this book because you're interested in the characters, you're interested in the town, and then the action pretty much kicks off quite quickly. I actually reread this in a day, so I read this really, really fast. And it's just one of those where you keep turning the pages because you want to know what happens. And I feel like Adam does a great job at building the tension, but giving you payoff almost immediately. So, the tension is built all the way through this book, but you're getting little payoffs here and there until it comes to like the big explosive third act. And I just really enjoyed it. I think Quinn as a character is interesting to follow, but for me, I really liked Rust in this, who is um Quinn's new neighbor, and he is who he is. He's just like a small town guy, wants to work and do his business and not be in the limelight. And then you have Cole, who's like the opposite, who is on social media and likes being in the limelight and is essentially, comes from wealth. So he is your like typical um kind of wealthy kid, I suppose. In the first book. In the first book, that's the kind of, tone that it's set in. So you have these three characters that are all from really different backgrounds. Quinn's from Philly. She lost her mom. She now is just with her dad. You have Rust, who is just a small town guy that goes about his business. And then you have Cole, who is wealthy, well, has a wealthy family, from a wealthy family, who is also going through his own struggles, but is that kind of star boy. I don't know, like, how you get in American terms, you get like the athlete or the wealthy kid. Like that's like Cole in this. I don't know if how I'm explaining this is any use, but yeah. So you follow good characters, and the thing I liked about this is there was no shying away. Like the book really went there, and I think that's why I enjoyed it so much, even though it was YA, was because it didn't pull punches and it still stayed in that YA area without reading too young, without like glossing over the facts of such a like explosive event. It's really hard to talk about this book without, you know, having read it, because I never want to give too much away, because I feel like as soon as you give some I feel like, let me try and get this out here, because of the title and because of the horror genre line, you kind of know what you're in for. So any extra information that you get about this book could be a spoiler. So I would essentially go into this blind. You don't even need to read the synopsis because it will serve. It will serve you, and I highly recommend this one. The next one I have here to talk about is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. This was anticipated for me because I enjoy Riley Sager. And even though there's been a few misses, it's still an author that I get really hyped about and look forward to their next release. So when I read the synopsis to this, I wasn't really sure what to expect, because I like when Riley Sager goes um like you never know if it's supernatural or if it's realistic, and you kind of get bogged down trying to decide what way the story is going to go. And not a lot of people like that. I think a lot of people like when Riley Sager is decisive in his writing. So the synopsis to this one was that when Ethan was a kid, him and his best friend Billy were having a camping in his back garden. And when Ethan awoke the next morning, Billy was gone, and the only thing left was a slash in the tent. Then you follow Ethan years later as he returns back to town, and he, is still unanswered. Billy is still a missing person, still a missing kid. There's never been any advancements. It's a cold case, but Ethan returns to his childhood home as an adult. Now, there was a few things I really enjoyed about this story, and there was a few things that I think could have been done better. I gave this a 3.5, which is, a little lower than the last two Riley Sagers. The last two, I think I gave The House Across the Lake a 4.5, and I think I gave the Lenora Hope one, oh, I I can't even remember the name of that now. I know the characters' names. I think I gave that a 4. I can't remember. But this is a little lower than I would rate a Riley Sager, and to be fair, it was probably going to be a 3 star, but there was one specific aspect of the story that was kind of sad. The whole story overall was pretty sad, to be honest, because you're following like a man that, never understood what happened to his best friend. So, like, that's sad in and of itself. But, like, there was another part of this story that was really sad. The thing that I really enjoyed about this story was that Sager kept that, is it supernatural? Is it realistic? Like, what happened to Billy um, could have been either or thing going. And I do enjoy when Sager does that. And for a lot of the story, I was like, okay, this is going to be something we don't expect. It's going to be a supernatural moment. And then for another part of the story, I was like, oh, this is going to be realistic. This is going to be like something that should have been found out at the time. And I would say that I apparently prefer Sager's main characters to be women, because this is the first Sager book I actually think has been written from a male POV, and I just didn't really like Ethan that much. I had a lot of empathy and care for him, but I just didn't really like him overall as a character, which made it hard to root for anything, or like I was still rooting for answers, but it wasn't for Ethan, it was for me as a reader. And I really like when I can root for the character as well as my own needs. And he was just he was just boring, unfortunately. I just didn't really get behind Ethan as a character. Like in oh my goodness, the Lenora Hope one, what is it called? I don't actually own that one. Um Oh, I'm gonna put a picture on screen of the book that I'm talking about because I can't remember the title. Kit in that was a great character to follow, like interesting, intuitive, and also like you can really delve into her mind at the time in that book. Whereas Ethan in Middle of the Night just kind of fell flat. And I did enjoy some of the side characters. I just didn't feel like they were built up enough, even though it would have done so much to the story to have them built up. I also think if you're like the because I like the supernatural versus realistic, you never quite know what you're gonna get. It would have been really nice if we didn't have that and the work was put into the characters. But I think I feel this way because of the third act, because I know how the story left off. I think now I would much prefer for the supernatural element to be taken out and the work depth to put into the characters, because there was a few things to make this atmospheric. I really like oh goodness, Lock Every Door. Yeah, I really like Lock Every Door by Riley Sager, and the reason I liked that one was because the hotel, the Bartholomew, took on this like really it took on a persona. It was like a character in and of itself. And I feel like Middle of the Night was just trying to do too much and it made it fall flat, unfortunately. And I'm glad that I didn't buy this one. I'm glad that I didn't pre-order this one because I probably would be unhauling this if I did. Because as I said, this is probably a 3 star stand-in, but there was one element in it that made me bump it up a half star because it had me, I didn't see it coming. It made me sad, and it kind of formed a bit more of understanding in the overall story. So yeah, it just wasn't a hit for me, unfortunately. Um, Maybe Sager's next one will do it. One that was a hit was Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney. I did not know what to expect with this one because this one doesn't have the best Goodreads ratings, and that can sometimes be an issue. There's Goodreads is like a coin toss because sometimes I really like things that are rated lowly, and then sometimes I'm like, yeah, I understand why there's a low rating. And this one was interesting because I actually bought this because it was on the Goodreads Thriller Choice Awards last year, which is why I bought it. And never picked it up for the Choice Awards, and now I have. And it's so interesting because I really enjoyed this. I gave this a 4 stars. In this, it's kind of a hard book for me to talk about because it follows so many things. So 20 years ago, there was a baby stolen from a stroller in a supermarket. And then you jump to the present day and you follow a few women. You follow Frankie, Cleo, and Edith, and Patience. And they seem to have nothing in common. And you just kind of get their points of view throughout the story of things happening in their life. So Edith is an old woman and she's in a care home. Patience is her caretaker. Cleo is her daughter. And then Frankie is an outsider. And you don't quite know what connects them, but because of the synopsis and the prologue, you kind of think, right, okay, well, they all have something to do with each other. Like maybe the baby has something to do with connecting all of them. But the whole way throughout this story, I was thinking to myself, what is the connection? And every time I thought I had it, I would change and forget that and trying to come back to it. And I think that's what made this such a good read for me, was because even though I felt like I had it, it still kept me guessing for the longest time. And even though I predicted one thing, there was a couple of things that I didn't predict, and all the characters felt fully fleshed out. They were very distinctive voices. I could tell from POVs who was talking without having the like character's name at the top, and that's important. I really enjoy well developed characters. Well developed characters can make or break a book for me, and in this one, following multiple female POVs could sometimes get confusing because I with POVs, I find it hard sometimes. If it's POVs in the first person, I sometimes can find it hard to jump from someone's head to someone's head, um, especially if it's more than two characters. With this, it's POV in the third person, so you're not quite jumping into their head in the same way. And I feel like that works better for my brain. And it also made it very interesting. It was interesting read, and I didn't. I picked this up thinking I'm in the mood for a thriller, and I read the first chapter. I was like, I'll read the first chapter, and then if I'm not in the mood for it, I'll come back to it. And I ended up just like reading it. I think I read it in a couple of days, and it's one of those where if you're looking for something, I would say like more lit fic thriller, lit fic thriller, because it is more of a mystery, to be honest. I would say it's mystery contemporary fiction. I think that would work. I think marking this as a thriller kind of puts like, because there is elements, there's a stolen baby, and I'm pretty sure it says in the synopsis that there is a murder as well. So it does fall into a thriller, but I feel like it reads as more contemporary mystery lit fic. And it's one of those that if you're looking for something that's fast paced and keeps you guessing till the very end, then I would pick this up. But then I also think that if you are a seasoned thriller mystery reader, then you may guess too quickly. I think the enjoyment of this book is very much dependent on whether you get it or you don't. And for me, I partially got it, so I still had that enjoyment, and I just really enjoyed it. And I think because it was a mood read and I picked it up on a whim and I was kind of expecting the least from this book, it was a nice surprise that it delivered more than I expected. The next book I have here is The Har by David Sojgren. Sojgren? Mm, I really suck at pronouncing names. I swear I say them in my head right, but I just don't say them out loud right. So this was another mood read for me, and I'm so glad that I picked this up. I actually received this in an Abominable book club box, and I was excited because this is Scottish and I am also Scottish. So in this, we follow Muriel, who has settled in Witch Haven. I'm pretty sure it's Witch Haven. Yes. She settled in Witch Haven and she's lived there pretty much her whole adult life. She has seen people come and go. She's seen, you know, it is a fisherman's town, I suppose you would call it. And people of Witch Haven are a community in and of themselves. So when this big business typhoon person comes and tries to buy all of their houses and all of their land to make a golf course, they all hold out. But Muriel is the last holdout in this town, and things begin getting more complicated with the businessman. I can't even remember his name now because he sucks. Patrick Grant, that's his name. So when Patrick Grant tries to come and take over this land, Muriel is determined to fight for what she loves. I really enjoyed this. So I'm not really sure. Um, I'm trying to see if I could say what I want to say without it being a spoiler. I mean, it's it's not really a spoiler, like the horror, this thing on the cover. Muriel finds something and she thinks it is, an endangered animal, and she thinks that could save her land. Turns out it's not. And that is where the story really kicks off. I really enjoyed this because just reading dialogue that is how I sound or how I speak in my head is it was a moment. I don't actually think I've read a lot of Scottish dialogue. And if I haven't read it in a long time. So I really did enjoy. I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find something because I read a lot of um, American based books, I suppose, and their dialogue is just like normal. But I read it in my my accent. So, but to see my accent written on page, I apologize. This is a total tangent, but it was just really enjoyable. Let's see. The man smiled. Well, now you'd better take that up with your lawyer. You know, money can buy a lot of things, said Arthur as he huffed his way towards them, but it can't buy decency. It can't buy compassion, and it can't buy a nutter with a fucking shotgun. I loved it. Like, I gave this a 4 stars. It is, it was actually pretty sad, this book, to be honest. It was one of those that I went into blind, and I really enjoyed obviously the Scottish in it, and I enjoyed reading it, like the way I sound in my head actually being how it is on page. But really, it was a quite a deep book, to be honest. There was some pretty iffy gross moments, but I'm fine with that. I like a bit of gross. And I think if you're looking for like a fun, fast horror, this is not fun. If you're looking for a deep horror, you should read this. This is something that I think anyone can enjoy. There is, again, I wouldn't say that like the body horror I wouldn't say is extreme. So I would just go in like knowing there's going to be a little bit of guts in it. Not much by my standards, but I think my standards skew to the bit more extreme. I would say this is very mild. And I think it's one of those that you really start rooting for Muriel as a character because she is a badass. If I'm not like this when I'm her age, I'm going to be pissed because she fights for what she believes in. She, loves with all of her heart and is not afraid to tell you some home truths. And I just feel like Muriel was a great character to get behind in this book. And if you're looking for, this is short. This is only ooh, like 200 pages. So it's short, it's deep, it's fun, it's got depth, the characters are really built up, and it's interesting, it's action packed, it's full of, events like boom boom boom. So because it's so short. So yeah, I would read this if you're looking for something fun. No. If you're looking for something fast, I would recommend this one. So, I think that out of all of these, I would recommend these three. I don't think I would recommend Middle of the Night, to be honest, but I recommend all three of these books, which I think is the first time I've had three book recommendations in a thriller review video. That's something. So, yeah, I think if you're looking for something fun, fast paced, not so much with the gore or the very in depth descriptive details of gore. If you're looking for a slasher, if you like this, I would recommend the film Haunt. That's a good film. It's like the adult version of something like this in my head. So I would recommend Haunt as a film if you enjoyed this, and if you have not read this but do like slashers and um you know like fast paced action packed horror, I would recommend this. If you're looking for something that's deep, a little bit sad, something that's different than your standard reading, um, with a little bit of guts, not much, but a little bit of guts and gore, with a main character that you can really root for, I recommend The Horror. If you're looking for something that's your like typical beach read thriller, um, that you can kind of pick up, read, and forget, I would recommend this. I would also recommend this with the caveat of if you guess real quick, this might not do it for you, but it did it for me. So those are the three I recommend. We're not going to recommend Middle of the Night. If you want a Riley Sager that I do recommend, I would recommend his last two releases because I can't remember the bloody name of that book for the life of me. So that is all I have for you today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so very much for sticking around and staying with me while I figure out my setup and hopefully learn how to use this new microphone. Thanks for, liking, subscribing, commenting, just being here. I really appreciate having a space to talk about what I love and what I don't love sometimes. I hope you have a great day, a great week, a great weekend, whenever the hell you're watching this. Remember to stay safe, happy, and healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye.